Look at the sheer size of Australia. It is the sixth largest country in the world, a landmass so massive you could drop the entire country of India into it twice over. Yet, despite all that space, 95% of this continent is completely abandoned. Mapping where the population lives reveals a sharp concentration. 90% of Australians occupy just 0.22% of the land, clustered primarily in Sydney, Brisbane, Perth, Adelaide, and Melbourne. Step outside those coastal borders and you enter a hostile void. This emptiness is the combined result of a geography that rejects human life and a dark history of deliberate erasure. To understand why so few people live here, we must start by eliminating the impossible terrain. The Western Plateau makes up 2/3 of the country, and it is almost entirely desert. The reason for this drought lies to the south. Freezing ocean currents from Antarctica cool the surrounding waters. Without surface heat to evaporate the water, rain clouds cannot form over this vast western expanse. This permanent aridity creates severe economic penalties. The agricultural sector faces constant drought conditions, costing the industry over $1.1 billion every year. Moving inland offers no reprieve. The central lowlands sit on top of rocks and soils formed millions of years ago. As these ancient formations break down, they leach extreme levels of natural salt directly into the groundwater and rivers. The water here is so saline it is toxic to crops and humans alike. Between the endless western deserts and the poisoned central plains, the vast majority of the continent actively prevents human survival. This leaves only the eastern highlands, a narrow green strip along the coast with fertile soil and fresh water. Earth's rotation generates powerful trade winds moving west. These winds drive warm Pacific moisture directly into Australia's eastern coast. That instead of spreading inland, the moisture slams into the Great Dividing Range. This towering wall traps the heavy storm clouds in one concentrated strip. All that trapped water has to go somewhere. The pileup of atmospheric heat and moisture regularly triggers catastrophic flooding and guarantees 2 to 3 severe cyclones hit this exact region every single year. The only sliver of land capable of supporting a massive population subjects its residents to these violent, destructive weather cycles year after year. Yet, human survival here is possible. For tens of thousands of years, indigenous Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities successfully adapted to this ecosystem, thriving without the need to permanently fence the landscape. That balance shattered in 1788. British colonists arrived to build a penal colony, legally declaring the continent terra nullius, a vacant land belonging to no one, willfully ignoring the people who already lived there. The first wave of destruction was biological. The colonists introduced smallpox, measles, and other foreign diseases. Within a single year, half the indigenous population of the Sydney region died. The British possessed treatments for these illnesses, but withheld them, leaving communities to perish. Then came the territorial expansion. As settlers fenced off critical water sources and hunting grounds, they triggered a century-long frontier war. Indigenous residents were violently displaced, forced into hard labor, and subjected to systemic abuse across the expanding colonies. Colonization functioned as the targeted eradication of the only humans genetically and culturally equipped to navigate the continent's harsh extremes. The remaining population faced further decimation on global battlefields. During World War I, the British Empire conscripted 1 out of every 5 Australian men. Over 41,000 were sent to fight in Europe, and 40% of them never returned. Decades later, World War II brought the violence directly to their shores. The conflict compounded the loss of life, punctuated by over 90 direct Japanese air raids devastating the Northern Territories between 1942 and 1943. As the population bled out, the government deliberately choked off recovery. The Immigration Restriction Act of 1901, widely known as the White Australia Policy, legally blocked Asian and non-white immigration, artificially restricting the demographic growth of the country for decades. Over 3 centuries, warfare, disease, and engineered policy reduced the native population by roughly 90%. The continent was hollowed out by design. Today, the total population of Australia has rebounded to 26 million people, But looking closer at the demographics reveals the lingering footprint of those centuries. Native Australians now account for just 3.8% of the country. That is roughly 1 million people remaining from the original inhabitants of this vast landmass. To put that scale into perspective, the entire indigenous population of Australia would easily fit inside a single average-sized regional town in India. When you look at a map of Australia, the vast empty space marks the intersection of brutal climatic barriers and the violent ambitions of an expanding empire. The 95% of Australia that lies empty stands as a permanent monument to the limits of human expansion and the deep scars of colonization.